this?
Hello my trigger happy friends, my name is Stevie Cade and welcome to Film Trigger. It is September now in the Cade house. That is the start of the Halloween season. That usually goes on until right around Thanksgiving. We celebrate Halloween from September to October. Then from October to Thanksgiving, we celebrate what we call Xmas. You know, that little taint between Christmas and Halloween area. Yeah, I just measured that in a taint. Anyway, so I'm going to kick off with a review series I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I'm finally able to do it. But before we get started, if you could hit that subscribe button and the little bell ding thing so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Alright guys, without further ado, let's review A Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh, I love this movie so much. I'm going to start off with some negatives, that way we end on a very high note. So let's dive immediately into what I do not like about this movie. And there's not very much I don't like about it, I'm going to be honest with you. But the things I do have a problem with, I think hold some ground a little bit. First of all, Rod. Rod sucks. Not the character Rod as much as the actor playing Rod, Jusu Garcia. He just seems like he's overacting the role. He's saying his lines like he's reading them off a cue card, or he's overthinking the role. I can't tell what it is, but it's very off-putting to the rest of the cast. And I'm not saying the rest of the cast is Oscar winning, but they are standard to what I expect from a horror slasher film. He is just a little too... He's just a little too high school play-y. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Hey, up yours with a twirling lawnmower.
Yeah, so his acting is not on point for me, and sometimes it takes me out of the moment. Now, another issue I have with this film is the lack of response from the adults, about Freddy. Like, your child is describing a murderer that you guys murdered. Also, this should be alarming to everyone. Not just that, but kids are dying, so maybe they should take this more seriously. And I'm very aware that them brushing it off is more plot driven. But hell, even the sleep doctor should have taken notice when she pulled the freaking guy's hat out of her dream. She went in there, they tucked her in, now she has a fedora and cuts all over her arm and she's bleeding. She's saying that some guy with knives for fingers tried to kill her. What did the doctor say after all of this? I think she's just trying to get attention. They just kind of gloss over that whole thing. I mean, that scene's cool, but it doesn't change anything with anybody believing her. Which some would say, well, that's kind of the point. It just shows how alone she is. And again, I know it's plot driven, and I'm very aware that it's plot driven. Nancy's mom drinking does show that it's her coping mechanism. She knows that something's going on here, but she's kind of drinking the problem away. And they do address that in the movie, and I think that's pretty well done. But all in all, there's lots of other parents. There's kids dying. They murdered this guy the hat, the fedora. Pay more attention to the fedora that had Fred Krueger's name on it. Why wouldn't that be a big deal to anybody? Or why would you think she's just having repressed memories? I mean, it's a fucking hat that she pulled out of her dream. And speaking of Nancy's mom, her death just didn't fit, and it was overly dramatic. Like, I don't get it. Like, they're in the real world. They're not in a dream world. What? Did the bed just absorb her? Like, where did she go here? A suspension of disbelief, I get it. And that can hold true more when they're in the dream world. But in this scene, they're in reality. What just happened? How did the body just disappeared in thin air? The whole booby trap climax thing at the end, it just doesn't do it for me. I know that was probably a popular thing in the 80s, and I like when they bring Freddy into the real world. I think that's a cool concept, but bringing him in and then doing this booby trap thing, I like to see that in more comedic movies, like Home Alone is a prime example. That works perfectly in Home Alone. Not Rambo, Sylvester Stallone. Dramatically, it just doesn't come across well. I mean, there's so many cool things they could have done with Freddy escaping into the real world, which they kind of touched base on in Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which we'll get to that when I review that film next. But in this movie, I would have liked to have seen what happens when Freddy is pulled into the real world and then escapes. That would be a cool thing to see. That actually wouldn't be a bad, Netflix show, to be honest with you. And while we're talking about Netflix series, why don't we go ahead and do a Freddy Krueger prequel because there seems like there's a really cool story to be told there about him being the child murderer and the trial and all that. That'd be a cool thing to give the whole Psycho treatment to when they turn that into a prequel series. I think that would be a great story to be told also. But that has nothing to do with this review. So moving forward. Now, that's pretty much all I have for what I don't like about this film, but I do have quite the collection of petty points that I like to bring up. And for those of you new to the channel, my petty points are simply points I'm not really critiquing the movie over. It's just it's just me being petty about certain things I just noticed while watching the film. Like Rod's sex noise. That's weird. That's a weird noise to make while you're having sex. Just saying. I'm aware that this Freddy Krueger is a much shorter stuntman and not Robert Englund. Freddy Krueger has red blood and green blood. Which is it? Choose one. When Nancy tells her father to come get her in 20 minutes, she specifically states exactly at midnight. Just say 12:30. Short, sweet, and to the point. And while we're talking about this, that whole Home Alone booby trap setup that she did, that could not take place in 20 minutes with her also falling asleep and then also bringing Freddy out. I feel like they probably should have shown that whole montage of her setting those booby traps up and then had her call her dad and say, come get me in 20 minutes. That would have been more believable. Again, petty points. You can call me Tom because I'm being petty. I think I've made that joke before. I don't know. Who the fuck hired this guy?
Oh, God! Daddy, help me! Please!
Maybe I better go tell the lieutenant.
You think? I mean, the young girl is across the street from a bloodbath murder investigation, screaming help for her father, who is the police lieutenant, while smoke is pouring from the windows. Yeah, maybe you should go get the lieutenant. And that's it for my petty points, moving right along with what I'm on the fence about when it comes to this film. Glen's role in the movie. Okay, I like Glen. I like Johnny Depp as Glen, and it's his very first movie. Cool, that's awesome. And I think it's very important for Nancy to have that trusted friend and confidant that she can go to and vent to and have help her through this whole process. But I'm just not satisfied with Glen's character development in this movie. He can be one of two things, and that's either he's completely innocent from the whole thing and he's just trying to help his friend out who he thinks is kind of crazy, or he's secretly being haunted by Freddy and he doesn't want to talk about it. In this movie, I'm not sure which one he is, because they kind of hint that maybe he's having dreams a little bit, but he doesn't really seem very scared to go to sleep, or he doesn't seem tired. He doesn't seem worried that he's going to get murdered like everybody else. So I'm not really sure what his character development is. Now, let's say they did go the route of him being scared and trying to hide his fear from his friends. You know, they could have illustrated that with showing that he was really tired, or maybe like he had a cut in his arm, he explained away, but they all kind of look at him like, yeah, we know those cuts. But would that have lessened the intensity of his kill scene? I mean, that kill scene is pretty badass. I'm not exactly sure, and that's why I'm on the fence about it. Like, Glen is okay. I really would have liked to have dove into his character just a little bit more one way or another. Also, one thing that kind of bugs me a little bit, doesn't take me out of the movie too much, but also involving Glen, is him being in Nancy's dream when he's supposed to be watching her in her room.
Are you still watching?
Yeah, so?
I don't understand the direction they were going with this, or why they went this route. It's confusing, him being there. It's telling us that he's asleep and in her dream world. So why would she think he's awake watching her if he's in her dream? Like, I don't know. Did they think the audience was dumb and that they needed to see Glen? I mean, I feel like it would have worked just as fine if Nancy just kind of told herself, man, Glen, I hope you don't fall asleep. I hope you're there to wake me up when I need you. You know, but they don't. They show Glen pop out from behind this tree like a dope. Like, oh no, I'm watching you somehow in this dream world. Like, I think the movie could have done just fine without that. It would have been a little less confusing. Another thing I'm also confused about is how much power Freddy has in these movies. When people are in the dream world, it's like Freddy's playground. Anything can go. Freddy can do whatever he wants, turn into whatever he wants, but he just really has a hard time catching them. Like, they're very elusive to him and they escaped often. I mean, some could argue, and I would not go against this argument, that it's just him toying with them and trying to instill more fear so he can become more powerful, which Makes sense. I wish I would have thought about that before I filmed this. But still, my point is, all the cool things that he's doing, it seems like he could just show up somewhere and just murder you. Like when he's the hall monitor. Just kill Nancy then. Right then and there. Kill her. That's fine, right? But I guess he does need to scare her. I don't know. I'm still on the fence about it. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. The ending of this film is almost there. It's almost great. I do like the aspect of taking the energy away from Freddy is what kills him. So that part, it works for me. It's a little hokey the way he just kind of disappears into nothingness. Kind of like her mom did. Whatever. But the very last shot where they step outside, her mom's alive again, and her friends are alive, and everything's hunky-dory, and she gets in the car, and then they ride away in the Freddy-mobile, that would have been a good time for the credits to roll, in my opinion. But instead, we got this last little jump scare of this very fake doll person that's supposed to be the mother that gets pulled through this teeny tiny little window in the door. I feel like that didn't need to be there. I get it, jump scare, and I think they could have done a jump scare a different way, or just let the credits roll with Nancy rolling away in the Freddy mobile, and that's, to me, that would have had more of an impact. But again, it's not bad, so that's why I'm on the fence about it. I can take it or leave it, and that's kind of where I'm at. Now, moving along with what I like about this movie. Honestly, there's no better way to start out what I like about this movie than with, well, my murder montage. Four? There's only 4 kills? I mean, we get to see Nancy's mom die twice. I guess that could count as 5? I guess we're doing quality over quantity here. Not that many kills in this movie, but there are 2 spectacular kills. And that's both Glen's heavy flow bed blowout and Tina's hard to watch slasher fest. And both were actually filmed in the same spinning room. That's how you kind of see Tina, crawling on the walls and on the ceiling while she's getting, slashed to bits. Well, Glen's room was also filmed on that same set, which is responsible for when you see the blood start, dripping and, leaning the other way. That was an accident that happened. The room just kind of tilted when it wasn't supposed to, and all this blood started going the wrong direction. It wasn't supposed to be pouring out that way. But it added to the morbidness of the scene, and which is why I think it stayed in. Well, that, and I don't think they wanted to clean it all up and just do it all over again. Wes Craven's just yeah, we're just gonna roll with that. But those 2 scenes are masterfully done, and they're bloodbaths, and that's what you want from a slasher movie, especially Tina's death scene, which is, to me, one of the most brutal killings in the golden age of slasher films. And you don't even see the killer. That's what makes it even more crazy. Which brings me to the next thing I like about this movie, and that's the practical effects. They're done masterfully well in this movie. Latex and corn syrup, man. You can't beat it.
Warm, blood-flavored corn syrup.
I love the creativeness that comes with a low-budget horror movie like this. I mean, Freddy looks gross. He looks shiny. If you touch him, you feel like he looks like a slug. He does, yeah. Oh, there he is. Which I don't know what they put on him, if it was corn syrup or they just sprayed him with water or whatever. It hid the fact that his mask is latex, and it made it look more real, almost like he's seeping pus or something, and it adds to the overall creepiness of Freddy Krueger. In the entire opening sequence and in Freddy's introduction, they're riddled with expert craftsmanship of practical effects and clever camera tricks to enhance the nightmarish theme that they're going for in this film. Just the wall shot alone, where you have the body of Freddy looking like it's pushing through the wall, like he's coming out of the dream world into reality a little bit. Wow. That is such a cool shot. Award winning. I don't know if it won an award for that, but if it didn't, it should have. And it's all practical. That was something that really happened. Through clever practical effects and clever camera tricks, they pulled this off to make it look unreal. But it is real. It was really done by real people in a real place. Unlike the new movie, which redid that scene and was very heavy on the CGI and it was just bad. It looked very cartoony, and that's something that horror movies today seem to suffer a lot from, is that they lean too much on the convenience of CGI, and they take away the creativity that goes into doing practical effects. I mean, you have to get creative, and you want it to look good because it's something that you're making with your own hands. And which, not to put down, graphic artists or anything like that, because they're doing the same thing. But when it comes to horror movies specifically, the more realistic it looks, the better, because that way the audience can relate to it much more. Now add in the creepy sound effects of babies screaming and weird-ass goat noises, coupled with Charles Bernstein's iconic score, picking its simplistic yet haunting tune. But you put all these things together and it's a perfect storm that makes a top-shelf horror slasher ambiance. And the use of intertwining dreams with reality was a fantastic idea, superbly executed by Wes Craven. At times, it's hard to tell which is reality and which is the dream. When you have the schoolgirls doing the whole jump rope thing, they're in slow motion while the main cast is walking in real time. It's like he's illustrating that dream world and reality both exist simultaneously, and Freddy's always just around the corner. Wes Craven really knew how to blur these lines, and he would even input things that we would see in the real world into the dream world, and vice versa. Like, for example, when Nancy is watching about her friend Tina's murder on TV, you see Tina's arms kind of fall out of the body bag. That also happens when she's wandering in the school and the body bag gets pulled, you see that arm kind of flop out. I don't know if that was done on purpose, but it was something that I definitely noticed, and I think if I noticed it, if my small monkey brain noticed that, then Wes Craven's mastermind probably did it on purpose. But it also goes the other way, most notably being, "You need a hall pass!" Then after the dream, Nancy's teacher says the same thing. It's doing these little bits that bring both of these worlds together, and as I said before, it blurs the line between the two, so sometimes you don't know which one you're watching or how much influence one has over the other. But all of these details would mean nothing without the perfect antagonist, Freddy Krueger. Seriously, what's scarier than someone who can kill you in your dreams? We all dream. We all have to sleep. Everybody has to sleep. Your race, your social status, your beliefs, none of this stuff matters when you're dreaming. Freddy Krueger is an equal opportunity murderer. There's no escaping it. And to me, that's absolutely frightening. And we all have nightmares. So I've even had a dream where Freddy killed me in my dream. Really messed with my head for a while. Oh, that was intense. Whew. They hit a home run when they cast Robert Englund in this role. This man took what could have been an easy, let's do another Halloween or another Friday the 13th zombie, just walking around like aimlessly and slowly. They could have copy and pasted that, but they didn't. Freddy Krueger has some spunk. Robert Englund decided to play a demon murderer, almost like a schoolyard bully, who's really excited to show you his new freak show abilities. That's what made him stand out in this subgenre of slasher, and also led the way for more overly charismatic torture junkies like Chucky of Child's Play. Until this point, we had very stale performances for killers, and that's not bad. That's creepy in its own right, but this makes Freddy stand out as a rock star amongst killers, and that's what he is. He's a rock star in the slasher genre. Overall, this film was my introduction into horror, like from a very young age. I was born in '83, this movie came out in '84, and my mom would find me often watching this movie by myself in the middle of the night. I was 4 years old. It kind of turned into a problem. I wasn't allowed to watch Freddy for many years after that. The doctor says I'm better now. What's that? But this movie was pulled together by the creative mind of Wes Craven and the hard craftsmanship of all the effects team. And another honorable mention to the cinematographer, Jacques Haitkin, who took that fuzzy line between reality and dreams that Wes Craven was trying to illustrate and defined both sides of that. Though parts of this film do seem a bit outdated, it doesn't overshadow the true nature of its purpose, which is essentially to scare the shit out of you. And for all these reasons, I'm giving this movie, fuck it, this movie gets an A+ because it started my love of horror and slasher movies.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great!
Let me know what you guys thought of this movie in the comments below. Are you a huge Freddy fan? Maybe you prefer some of the other guys like Jason, Michael Myers, Chucky, which are all good too. Freddy just happens to be my favorite, but let's discuss that in the comments below. Also, be sure to check out some more of my videos, and as always, stay trigger happy, my friends. Peace.
Please, God.
This is God.